Okay, we are in the dyno room. We've got the new exhaust on the quad. We now have a Vortex ECU, which was not in the plan. Well, either was the exhaust, but cool things happen when you come here. So now we're gonna tune all this stuff. Jay loves tuning Vortex ECUs. I don't think there's a lot of Raptors with Vortex ECUs. So I know Jacob Brewer had a Vortex on his. If there was a noticeable difference, I feel like they're just a bit crisper in the throttle response, and that's really well known in the YFC community. But it was running good, it just did not want to idle, and he said that's kind of common when you get an out-of-the-box tune with a Vortex. Aside from Jake's, have you had any other Raptors in the dyno here with a Vortex? That's pretty crazy, actually, because nobody online talks about the Vortex on the Raptor.
Because they're not as necessary as the 450. The Raptors don't have as many issues in the ECU, but the big thing about the Vortex is now we're going to have your fan turning on sooner, your light's going to turn on sooner, do the same thing as the 450.
That's pretty awesome.
Change all that. Like all these early on kits that everybody is putting on their Raptors, that's all done however we programmed it in our program.
That's awesome.
When you buy a stock Vortex, just a box Vortex, it has them all set at the factory setting of what Yamaha sells it, sends it out as. But
would you say Vortex most commonly would expect someone like you to manipulate it anyways? So they just kind of do enough to blanket their end so that the machine's not going to grenade.
Yes.
And then it's up to you as the consumer to get it dialed, however you do that. One thing he just mentioned is this will not have the 5th gear speed limiter. With the taller gearing I have on here, the taller sprocket, it'll go roughly 75 in 4th gear. I don't do that very often, but whenever I put it in 5th, it would go like 80 maybe a little more, and then just kind of not go any faster.
They do it through time.
They do it through.
They just kill the time it takes per hour to go from 65 to red line, so you think you're not even worth it.
Yeah, it's like it doesn't even.
It's not worth it, so you either downshift or do something different.
Well, with my tall gear ratio, it's kind of useless.
Right.
It doesn't really want to go much more in 5th gear.
Well, let's see how this thing idles now with this map in it.
So you already put the new map in.
Already good base map.
Yeah, nice base map. Hour into the dyno session, Jay had already tuned about a quarter of the RPM range thanks to his custom base map that he had to start, which really helped speed up the process. At this point, he also noticed that my digital temperature gauge that's mounted on my handlebars, which is plumbed into the coolant outflow of my motor, was quite a bit higher than the actual temp of the motor.
So look, what does the temperature say right
Yeah,
here?
what's...
No, what does it say on my gauge? That's what the computer's seeing, 170. Well, this says it's 201. It's 201 here at the hose. This is where we're reading the engine.
Oh, that's where the Vortex is reading?
There. So I would assume that this will probably be reading cooler than that, just getting the hot coolant off the head going back to the radiator.
So that's most likely reading accurately, but that's not really how hot the motor actually is.
No.
That's interesting. So, because I've had people ride this and comment and say, man, this thing runs kind of hot, according to that number.
It might be this.
But normally I'm running around 190, 195.
And that's fine.
Yeah, according to that, but I might have been running 160 then.
Yeah. Yeah, because I've got your fan coming on at like 185 and turning off at 180.
So what would the stock temp be for fan?
Like 205.
205, wow. Before it even turns on to help, it's pretty hot already.
So we're going to turn your heat light on at 205.
You mean it would come on this display?
Yes. Just so you know, I'm sitting at 205. So that's what we're going to change now.
Do you know what that is for?
235.
Jeez, that's like close to failure, isn't it?
I don't ever get anything over 200 degrees. So use this as a safety net. I would run by this because it's even safer. But what I feel good about so far is if I were to send this map out to somebody, it's fast, so it's safe.
Yes.
Safe.
Yes.
All right, well, let's see what we got.
You're still doing like mid-range, right?
I'm building my way up, so plus it's heat treating the pipe, so it's actually making your coating
more durable.
Bake it on instead of just blasting it.
Well, obviously people want to see pulls, so I've got some good early stuff.
We're working our way up.
I'm not in the dyno room because it is very loud. He is doing the final passes here. We're going to see the money pass on the new setup. He talked about how some of my drivetrain components are a little bit worn, so I should have put a fresh chain on there. Those little things do add up and make a minute difference in your total power number. So I'm not too concerned about peak power because I'm going from a fairly high performance exhaust to another. So we'll see what it puts out. The DAS is going to throw down. It sounds really nice. It's a little quieter than the Rossier. And I guess we'll see if we're around 60 horsepower. After these pulls, we ended up in the high 58s for horsepower and 47.5 foot-pounds of torque. Overall, the results are pretty much what I expected. Because we didn't run the quad with the old exhaust, we didn't have any recent data to compare the new exhaust to. The main thing is that the machine was running smoothly and it had the correct air-fuel ratios throughout the RPM range. Now Jay wanted to cool down the motor so that he could adjust the startup idle because it had been idling too high before, and to cool it down quickly he put his fans on it and did short engine startups to cycle coolant, which helped it cool down even faster. Before this video goes any further, I'm excited to announce that I've partnered up with Illinois Powersports to sell custom-tuned Vortexes for the YFC 450R and for the Raptor 700. Jay will include a custom tune for your setup, free of charge with your purchase. Just type your performance upgrades in the text box before adding to the cart and checking out. Once your order is placed, we will contact you via email, so please use an active email when placing your order. We will also be selling custom-tuned Power Commander 6s for the Raptor 700 as well. If you have any other questions before ordering, feel free to message us through our contact page on PeteHager.com, and I just wanted to give a huge shout out to Jay for all of his help, and now back to today's video. After cooling the quad down and making some idle adjustments, he brought the machine back up to temperature and then realized the radiator fan was not working. What's up?
I don't hear your fan going. That's why I want to manually turn it on. It says it's calling for the fan right now. I know it's hooked up. I can turn it on with the keys on to test it. It's calling for the fan right now, and the key's on.
What's that sound?
Fan's locked up or something.
Really?
But it was bent pretty good, and who knows? Well, you know what? I'm going to manually test it real quick. I'm going to go get my test light, and I'm going to put a positive and negative there. If we have power here, then we know that you got to get a fan.
Yeah, the fans are pretty bad.
Let me go grab my test light.
Okay.
Let me see. Okay, go ahead and turn it on. We have power to here. Okay, go ahead and turn it off a second. I just want to make sure I have a ground. We have a good ground, so we have power and ground there. The fan's bad, and it may fix that from doing that when it actually has a load on it.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to leave that unplugged right now.
Yeah.
Do you want it to be able to have the key on and cool it down after you're done riding? Let's say the fan was on, you heard it, you turned the bike off, the fan will turn off, right?
Yep.
The way it is. Do you want to have the option to turn the ignition back on until the fan cools down below 180?
Yeah, I think so.
Let's start real quick because I need to make sure it goes to 0. See, we're at 120 right now too. I need to get it warmed up so it actually drops on idles. I'm probably just going to have to raise that a little bit. I have to get it warmed up or it's going to drop. But then it's a balance because I have to just retune the idle, make sure that when it idles slow.
Otherwise, once it's warm, I'll come down from RPM and it could shut off.
Yes.
Yeah.
If I didn't fix it right now, it won't be right. claiming I was up and down, I was all over the temperature, I had to watch it.
Sounds like it's like coming down from peak power really nice and like leveling out nice. I mean, it's...
No bleeding pops or anything like that.
No, it doesn't pop at all. No fireballs.
Nope.
It's running really great.
Lines are looking pretty good. So the only thing you might want to do is put a little more oil on your filter, be lightly oiled it.
Yeah.
Because I'd rather have you over oil a little bit and be a tad on the rich side than a tad on the lean side if I were to soak it. But you don't want to go too much because you don't want to get that oil on that intake of your temperature sensor.
Okay. I guess just to recap, we've got the new ECU in here. What would be the main benefits for someone to, because right now, I mean, you could go either way with this quad, Power Commander or Vortex. If you're not getting a custom tune done, do you think those customers are better off going the Power Commander route?
Power-wise, it really isn't going to matter.
It's not going to matter.
But the nice part about the Vortex is there's less wiring. It's not a piggyback controller.
Less wiring. Okay, that is a good point.
Just less things to go wrong.
I mean, they're really not that much more expensive than the Power Commanders now. What, like $200?
$200.
But I mean, most of these guys, the Source one, I mean, it didn't run that good when we plugged it in.
Right.
So like,
do a box tune on it, they don't run. It's the FCI intake. It's the biggest difference in the way that their programs are made that I've seen. Because none of the programs they have in there for that FCI, and that flows way more than anything I think they've tested with. Because they normally use the stock air boxes.
Okay.
And they put the billet ring on there with the K-net filter. But without that tube, that's what changes the intake resonance a lot. And plus a different shape of the air box. The intake is huge, even more than a pipe. So, and then the other thing is you can turn the fan on whenever you want to and heat light on different times. Just more programmable.
But that's only on your end. They can't make those adjustments.
But if I send it out, we can do whatever they want.
You could custom set it up.
Correct. Key on if they want it on to be able to cool it down like we did on yours.
Okay.
After the machine is off.
Yeah.
A lot of little stuff like that.
Well, a little different dyno session. More or less just made it super happy and run good.
Yes.
But I mean, we're not comparing anything and just make sure that everything's in running order. I mean, it's still kind of hard to wrap my head around what happened to this thing in the last 2 days. I mean, like, it's like kind of getting a brand new four-wheeler again. You guys just extensively went through everything. And I guess we'll just stay on top of it. It needed the TLC. It did.
Yes.
All right, well, I guess now it's time to switch it all back.
Yep.
Or get it out of here. All right. And with that, the quad was essentially ready to ride. I just needed the last of several items, including all new plastic, a new graphics kit from Dirt Fiend Racing, new to market front bumper and grab bar from DBR, new V2 headlights from Restoquad, and I needed to finish installing the Pro Bounce nerfs. So on the next video, I will feature most of those finishing touches, and I also plan on getting a seat cover, but I'm waiting to see how the graphics kit turns out first. One more time, I have to give a huge shout out to Jay, Damon, Aaron, and Zach for all the work you guys put into my frame swap and working out any of the kinks with my machine. If you're in the Midwest region at all, I 100% recommend Illinois Powersports for any projects or repairs you may have. Their consistency and attention to detail is priceless, and I'm always beyond satisfied with their work. Last but not least, thank you to everyone, as always, for supporting us on PeteHager.com with parts and merch purchases. Your support means a ton, and we are very grateful. And as always, thank you for watching. You guys ride safe, and we'll catch you on the next one.